नमस्कार, हमारी खास चुनावी पेशकश रणभूमि 2021 में आपका स्वागत है। मैं हूं विशाल दहिया। 4 राज्यों और एक केंद्र शासित प्रदेश में हो रहे विधानसभा चुनाव का 6 अप्रैल को सबसे अहम पड़ाव है। 6 अप्रैल को इन राज्यों में चुनाव के लिहाज से सबसे ज्यादा सीटों पर मतदान होगा। अभी तक इन राज्यों के चुनाव में कुल मिलाकर 824 सीटों पर मतदान होना है और उनमें से कल यानी कि 6 अप्रैल को 475 सीटों पर मतदान होगा। तमिलनाडु की 234 सीट, केरल की 140 और पुदुचेरी की 30 सीटों पर मतदान होगा। तीनों ही राज्यों में एक चरण में मतदान किया जाएगा। इसके अलावा असम में मंगलवार को तीसरे और आखिरी चरण में 40 सीटों पर मतदान होगा, जबकि 6 अप्रैल को पश्चिम बंगाल की 31 सीटों पर भी तीसरे चरण की वोटिंग होगी। 6 अप्रैल के मतदान के बाद तमिलनाडु, केरल, पुदुचेरी और असम में चुनाव संपन्न हो जाएंगे और फोकस सिर्फ और सिर्फ पश्चिम बंगाल पर रहेगा, जहां अभी 8 चरणों में मतदान होना है। 6 और चरणों में मतदान होना है और कल के बाद अभी इस राज्य में माफ कीजिएगा 5 चरण बाकी रहेंगे, यानी कि कुल मिलाकर 8 चरण होंगे। पश्चिम बंगाल में 6 अप्रैल को तीसरे चरण का मतदान और उसके बाद 5 और चरण। और इन सभी जो राज्यों में मतदान हो रहा है, पश्चिम बंगाल के 8 चरण और असम के 3 चरण और केरल, तमिलनाडु और पुदुचेरी में 1 चरण में जो 6 अप्रैल को मतदान होना है, उन सब वोटों की गिनती 2 मई को की जाएगी, यानी कि जो नतीजे होंगे इस चुनाव के वो 2 मई को सामने आएंगे। अब लोकतंत्र के इस महापर्व को लेकर चुनाव आयोग ने इस बार कुछ खास तैयारियां की हैं। अगर इन पर एक नजर डालें तो कोरोना गाइडलाइंस का पालन करने के लिए पोलिंग बूथ पर आयोग की तरफ से खास तैयारियां रहेंगी। इसमें पोलिंग बूथ पर मास्क और सैनिटाइजर का भी इंतजाम किया जाएगा। तो आज का जो एक कार्यक्रम है हमारा, इसमें हम बात करेंगे तीसरे चरण के मतदान की। और जिस तरह से मैं आपको बता रहा था कि सबसे ज्यादा सीटों पर ये जो चरण है इसमें मतदान होना है, सिर्फ इसलिए क्योंकि जो 2 राज्य और एक केंद्र शासित प्रदेश है उनकी सभी सीटों पर मतदान होगा और पश्चिम बंगाल में तीसरे चरण का मतदान और असम में भी तीसरे और आखिरी चरण का मतदान। तो क्या खास तैयारियां हैं अभी तक और किस तरह से चुनाव प्रचार रहा है, खासतौर पर जो दक्षिणी राज्य है वहां पर, और किस तरह की उम्मीद की जा सकती है कल मतदाताओं के जोश को लेकर, और जो तैयारियां हैं कोरोना के मद्देनजर जो की गई है चुनाव आयोग की तरफ से, इन सब बातों पर विस्तार से नजर डालने के लिए और समझने के लिए हमारे साथ 2 खास मेहमान मौजूद हैं। आइए मैं सबसे पहले आपको उनसे मिलवाता हूं। हमारे साथ संदीप फूकन हैं, डेप्यूटी एडिटर हैं द हिंदू के। उसके अलावा हमारे साथ केवी प्रसाद भी जुड़े हुए हैं, वरिष्ठ पत्रकार हैं। आप दोनों का स्वागत है इस खास चुनावी कार्यक्रम में हमारे। सबसे पहले आपसे शुरुआत करता हूं केवी प्रसाद जी, और अगर दक्षिणी राज्यों की राजनीति और खासतौर पर चुनावी राजनीति को समझने की कोशिश की जाए, क्योंकि अब कल मतदान होना है और जिस तरह का धुआंधार प्रचार हमने देखा केरल, तमिलनाडु और पुदुचेरी तीनों ही जगह, आपके लिहाज से जो ये चुनाव प्रचार था उसमें क्या खास बातें रहीं?
देखिए, अगर आप तीनों 2 राज्य और केंद्र शासित प्रदेश की यहाँ देखें तो तीनों में विभिन्नता भी रही चुनाव की प्रक्रिया में, चुनाव के जो पूरे कैंपेन में। उसकी वजह है कि वहाँ की जो परिस्थितियां हैं अलग है। अगर हम तमिलनाडु की ओर चले, तमिलनाडु में देखें, चूंकि 2 ही ध्रुव है वहाँ पे, दोनों द्राविड़ पार्टियां उसके इर्द गिर्द घूमती हैं। एक तरफ तो सत्तारूढ़ ऑल इंडिया अन्ना द्रमुक और उनके विपक्ष में द्रमुक पार्टी जो कि स्टालिन के नेतृत्व में चुनाव लड़ रही है। हालांकि दोनों के पास अपनी अपनी गठबंधनें हैं, लेकिन प्रमुखता इनके तहत चल रही है। और इस वक्त पूरा दारोमदार ये है कि अन्ना द्रमुक को हराने के लिए पूरा कटिबद्ध है। उसकी वजह है कि पिछले 10 साल से अन्ना द्रमुक की सरकार चल रही है और जैसे कई बारी पहले भी कहा गया, तो कद्दावर नेता दोनों इस वक्त लुप्त हैं, क्योंकि वहाँ अन्ना द्रमुक जयललिता नहीं रही और इधर करुणानिधि नहीं रहे, तो एक नए किस्म की राजनीति देखने को मिली। और इस बीच में कांग्रेस और भारतीय जनता पार्टी दोनों ने अपनी अपनी कोशिश की वहां पे कुछ अपनी बात रखने की। दोनों अलग अलग गठबंधनों के साथ रहे। साथ वाले पड़ोस में चले केरल में बहुत ही दिलचस्प मुकाबला है और रहेगा भी। वजह है कि वहां पे बहुत सालों बाद एक तरह की बात कही जा रही है कि फिर से लेफ्ट फ्रंट की सरकार बने, ऐसा वहां पे लोगों का मानना है। वहां पे केरल में एक नारा इस तरह के चलाया है। होता नहीं होता वो कल के वोटिंग के बाद पता लगेगा, 2 मई को जब परिणाम निकलेंगे। लेकिन एक वहां उस तरह का माहौल है। और वहां पे देखिए, कांग्रेस जो कि यूडीएफ की तरफ से है, तो पूरी पेशकश और पूरा जो जोर रहा है वो कि कांग्रेस का ये रहा है कि हम कहीं ना कहीं सत्ता को वापस अपने तरफ कर ले। और तीसरा जो पड़ोस में लगता है बिल्कुल ही भिन्न है, वो है
जी
पुदुचेरी का जो केंद्र शासित प्रदेश है। पिछले कुछ 6 महीने पहले वहां सरकार खत्म हो गई थी, कांग्रेस की जो चल रही थी सरकार वो गिर गई। उसके बाद से परिस्थिति बदल गई। सबसे मजेदार बात तो यह है कि जो आज एनआर रंगस्वामी की जो कांग्रेस है, उसको द्रमुक ने कहा कि भाई आप लीड कीजिए और हम आपका समर्थन करते हैं। उन्होंने उनसे बात करने के थोड़े दिन बाद वो भारतीय जनता पार्टी की जो तरफ से हुई उनकी तरफ चले गए। तो ये वहां पे अभी 31 सीट है, लेकिन वहां हमेशा ही बहुत ही नजदीक का टक्कर रहा है।
जी
चुनाव के बाद क्या निकलती कह नहीं सकते, लेकिन तीनों में मिला के देखे दारोमदार अलग रहा, मुद्दे अलग रहे। और चूंकि वहाँ के अलग अलग राजनीति है, अलग अलग राजनीतिक पक्ष हैं, तो मुझे क्या ख्याल से कि बाकी दोनों राज्यों का अगर हम अलग कर लें, इन दोनों की कैंपेनिंग का सिस्टम और मोड काफी अलग रहा।
जी जी बिल्कुल केवी प्रसाद जी, आपने जिस तरह से बताया ये मोटी बातें हैं जो दक्षिणी राज्य हैं दो और केंद्र शासित प्रदेश पुदुचेरी, वहाँ पर किस तरह की चुनावी तैयारियां चल रही हैं, ना केवल चुनाव आयोग की तरफ से बल्कि राजनीतिक पार्टियों की तरफ से भी। और अलग अलग राज्यों में क्या वो महत्वपूर्ण मुद्दे हैं, इनकी भी बात करेंगे। तमिलनाडु की अलग से बात करेंगे, केरल की भी, पुदुचेरी की भी। लेकिन अभी थोड़ा सा रुख उत्तर पूर्वी राज्य की तरफ करते हैं, आसाम की तरफ। Fukan, I'd like to bring you in here. Third and final phase of polling out there in the state of Assam, 40 seats. We've been talking about extensively how, the kind of issues which held sway in the first and the second phase of polling in the state. Third phase, if you look at around 79 lakh voters, more than 300 odd candidates whose fate will be sealed for these 40 seats. How would you summarize this final phase of the electoral battle in Assam there?
Well, this is a very crucial phase for the Mahajot. As you pointed out, there are 40 seats. They are mostly in Lower Assam and, of course, Guwahati, the urban area. There are some very high-profile candidates as well. Himanta Biswa Sarma, who's contesting from Jalukbari, and he's, it's an adjoining constituency of Guwahati. Jalukbari is also an area, a locality in Guwahati, but the constituency is much larger and sort of also includes suburban areas. So Mr. Sharma is contesting. The industry minister, Mr. Chandramohan Patwari, he is contesting. Phani Bhushan Chaudhary of the AGP, Alliance Partner, they are contesting. But why I said this is a very crucial area for the Mahajot? Of the 50 seats, whether the Mahajot or the alliance between the Congress and the All India, it's a 10-party alliance, but essentially it's also an alliance. Primarily the key alliance partners are the Congress and the Badruddin Ajmal's All India United Democratic Front, AIUDF. Now, AIUDF appeals to a certain segment of voters, and they are sort of settled in these parts. And many of these seats are, on paper at least, believed to be, in favor of the alliance. Of course, urban areas have traditionally voted for the BJP. Even in the last elections, Guwahati East, they won. So there are some prestige battles here as well. Siddhartha Bhattacharya, he was former president of BJP. He's also contesting from Guwahati East. So overall, it's a very crucial phase for the Mahajot, because if the alliance works very well and if they are able to get a huge number of seats, then then it could be trouble, or it could take the contest very close to the ruling party. That's one.
Okay.
Second, it also includes the Bodoland Territorial Region, BTR. Remember, there has been a sort of role reversal, as it were, or change of partners until a few months back. The Bodoland People's Front of Hagrama Mohilari used to be a partner of the BJP. But then there was it's a Bodoland Territorial Region has an autonomous council. And in the council elections, BJP opted for a new partner. It's called UPPL. led by former student leader Pramod Boro. So they came to power in the Territorial Council, as a result of which Hagrama Mohilari, he went away and he allied with the Congress. He's been an ally of the Congress earlier as well, but because of BJP aligning with the new party,
Okay.
he has gone to the Congress fold. Now there are 12 seats. It will be very interesting. It's one of the oldest parties, representing the Boro people. There is substantial population of non-Boros, people from the minority community, Bengali-speaking community. So traditionally, Mr. Ajmal's party would have appealed to these voters. But both the Congress and Mr. Ajmal's party, they have decided not to field any candidates here, so that their votes also get transferred to Mr. Mohilari's party, the BPF, Bodoland People's Front.
Okay.
Now, the interesting thing is, it is already being talked about that if it's a very close election, and should it come to a situation where Mr. Hagrama Mohilari becomes the kingmaker, which side will he be on? Because he's done business with both sides.
Okay.
तो क्या हग्रामा मोहिलारी किंग मेकर बन पाएंगे, वो एक बहुत ही बड़ा सवाल है इस चुनाव में।
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल, काफ़ी महत्वपूर्ण सवाल भी है वहाँ पर संदीप, और ये इस सवाल का जवाब तो 2 मई को ही मिल पाएगा, लेकिन कल जहाँ वोट डाले जा रहे हैं वो काफ़ी महत्वपूर्ण सीटें हैं। एंड द काइंड ऑफ द इक्वेशंस, द चेंजिंग इक्वेशंस, अलायंस इक्वेशंस ऑन द ग्राउंड व्हिच यू आर पॉइंटिंग आउट, दे सीम टू बी वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग इन Assam and might hold the key to who rules the state for the next 5 years. But let's also look at one more aspect in Assam before we move back to the southern states, and that is the issues which hold importance in this particular phase, because geographically what we have witnessed is the way these 3 phases are being held in Assam. The issues, major issues are different in each phase because of the geographical location and the concentration of population there as well.
Absolutely. So, one of the major issues here would be that, the Citizenship Amendment Act, the Congress and AIUDF alliance, they have already said that if they come to power, then, they will not implement the CAA, the Citizenship Amendment Act. Mm-hmm. On the other hand, of course, BJP, they have made it very clear. Though I must say that, the way they articulated the CAA position or the question was very different in Assam from how they did it in Bengal. In neighboring Bengal, they put it in the manifesto. But in Assam, it's a question that has split. That has split the state down the middle. Different regions of Assam, depending on where you talk, either support or strongly oppose the act. Within the same party, there are different points of view.
Okay.
Now, when it comes to Congress, it'll be interesting to see how they formulate the NRC, because this is also the region or that part of Assam where there have been a lot of people whose names cropped up in the updated National Register of Citizens. Now, interestingly, the BJP has said that this NRC is faulty and flawed, and we will correct it because a lot of people whose names should not have been there have come in. Whereas the Congress had initially claimed that they were the ones who were behind the NRC project.
Okay.
And it was Tarun Gogoi government whose pilot project was to update the NRC.
Okay.
And how they are going to implement it, because there is considerable opposition on the ground with regard to NRC. In fact, there's a lot of fear and uncertainty in these parts.
So what's clear here, Sandeep? I'd like to butt in as because we have to talk about the other 3 states as well. What's clear here is that CA and NRC seemingly are the major issues during this final phase of polling in Assam as well. Now, let me bring in Mr. Prasad again here. Mr. Prasad, let's quickly look at these 2 southern states and the Union Territory. And let's start with the state of Tamil Nadu. And one important feature in the state of Tamil Nadu is that the number of women voters is slightly more than male voters there in the state. And that seemingly is quite evident in the kind of promises which have been made by the political parties out there as well. All of them have tried to woo the women voters in some way or the other.
I think, Vishal, you got it right. The fact that both the parties have been promising quite a lot of things. In fact, if the AIADMK offers 1,500 rupees as pension or as money, or 1,000, so DMK, AIADMK hiked it to 1,500 and so on and so forth, the paid leave, issues of social welfare measures, all this have been, in fact, this is not new. If you really look at it, the last 10, 15 years, whether it is the AIADMK or the DMK, there have been attempts to get the women voters out and give them some kind of an incentive to, say, for instance, even to make their household daily chores much easier through mechanization in terms of a mixer or a grinder and so on and so forth. And after all, when 50% of the population are women, many of them are educated and voting. So I think both parties are out to kind of see. And by the way, this is a phenomena which is not now only restricted to, I would say, Tamil Nadu. In other states too, there is this attempt to try and address issues which directly affect the women folk, be it the household caring. So that being the case, but Tamil Nadu, yes, there has been a very, very distinct attempt to try and get them out and all these things. So I think you're right in that sense. So it's the electoral game, and both parties are playing it.
Okay, definitely. And if you look at the neighboring state, Kerala, obviously corruption is one major issue there. And it's, as you're pointing out earlier, the LDF seemingly, some of the analysts are claiming, has an edge over the UDF this time around because of obviously, the internal pulls and pushes within the main UDF partner, that's the Congress. But let's not forget the third force around there as well, the BJP, seemingly trying to go ahead and, keep their foot in the door.
Well, I think, Vishal, what will be most interesting for political observers, and I'm surely going to wait and watch when the results are out, as to whose votes has the BJP taking away. BJP certainly is going to be a factor, but because BJP, by their own accounts, as we heard even in your program last week, they're expecting a realistic target of 3 to 4 seats. Of course, Neman was their original seat, which last time, 2016, they won. They hope to retain it through Mr. Kumam Rajshekhar, who was the former party chief of Tamil Nadu, Kerala. And of course, Mr. E. Sridharan, the Metro man, as they expect, and there are other 1 or 2 constituencies where they're expecting something. Be that as it may, I think what I would like to see is which party is BJP going to damage more. The LDF is banking on 2 things: the kind of work it says the government has done in terms of outreach for the welfare of people during the COVID times, the ration kits and so on and so forth. Of course, the Congress is trying to say that this is social welfare funded by taxpayers' money, so it's not the government. Well, be that way, people will have their own viewpoints on this issue. I think corruption is what people are talking about, because the gold scam, the allegations of gold smuggling has been going on for a while. And the latest has not been proven, or rather it's up in the air, is the deep sea fishing issue that people are talking about, that the UDF has rigged up, saying that the LDF has made a pact with some American company or so on and so forth, which the LDF has denied. But surely the fisher folk is going to... So these are issues. Some of them are local, some are national. So these are going to be a mix and match. The UDF obviously has the thing that they have to look, and that's largely because Rahul Gandhi is a member of parliament from Wayanad, and he has led the campaign throughout. So I think much is at stake for the Congress party and Mr. Gandhi in particular.
Okay, and indeed, the Congress out there seemingly is doing quite a tightrope walk there when we talk about the other aspect here. And I'd like to bring in, Sandeep, you here, since, if I'm not wrong, you covered the left parties for quite some time now. The kind of dichotomy which we see whenever there are elections so far, in Kerala and in West Bengal, we see the LDF and the UDF head-to-head in Kerala, UDF led by Congress, LDF led by CPM. On the other hand, in West Bengal, they have quite a comfortable alliance going on there. And an interesting part here is that so far we've not seen, the Congress leader Rahul Gandhi campaigning in the state of West Bengal.
That's right. Yes. As Prasad was saying, these elections are very crucial for the Congress for a variety of reasons. One is that Rahul Gandhi himself is a Lok Sabha member from Wayanad. So it's a kind of a prestige battle of sorts. Number two, Kerala, votes a new government alternatively in the sense that, it votes a new party to government every 5 years. But as we've been reading, and opinion polls and pre-poll surveys seems to suggest that chain may be broken this time, and the LDF may come to, may be able to form successive governments. That is why the Congress has put all its power, firepower. We saw until, of course, she isolated herself. We saw Priyanka Gandhi Vadra going and campaigning in Kerala. Rahul Gandhi has been leading the campaign there, primarily because the Congress is a divided house. We just in the run-up to the polls, we saw some senior leaders leaving the party and joining, for example, PC Chako. He joined Sharad Pawar's party, NCP, because he felt that he was not getting along between the Chenitala faction and Uman Chandi faction, and there is AK Antony. So there are different factions. So to sort of bridge over those factions, Rahul Gandhi, it was essential for Rahul Gandhi to
So, Sandeep, can we infer here that Congress seemingly has given up on West Bengal there, or they don't want that to be highlighted because there's a larger, bigger battle to be won in Kerala?
No, I think that, realistically speaking, the Congress would have done their calculation. They know that they will not be able to make much of a headway in West Bengal, right? I mean, except some pockets of North Bengal, Murshidabad, North Dinajpur, these are the areas where the Congress still has some presence.
Okay.
And that is the area also of the stronghold of its leader, Adhir Ranjan Chaudhary. Okay. Otherwise, there is no point in focusing your energy. If you can't win the battle, you'd rather focus your energies on a state which you can win. That's why you see they are focusing on Assam and Kerala. And to answer your question, आपने पूछा अभी कि राहुल गांधी क्यों नहीं गए बंगाल, तो मैं आपको बता दूं ये स्टोरी हमने हिंदू में किया था. हिंदू अखबार में ये 10-15 दिन पहले रिपोर्ट किया था कि ये लोग ये कंफ्यूजन नहीं चाहते हैं कि आप एक जगह दोस्ती कर रहे हैं और दूसरे जगह आप कुश्ती लड़ रहे हैं, क्योंकि केरल में कुश्ती चल रहा है अभी फिलहाल कांग्रेस और वामपंथियों के बीच कुश्ती. इट्स अ रेसलिंग, एंड वेयर एज इट्स अ फ्रेंडशिप. बंगाल में आप लोग फ्रेंड्स, तो वो दिखना नहीं चाहते. कल फेज खत्म हो जाएंगे और उसके बाद आप देखोगे कि राहुल गांधी और बाकी के आला जो नेता है कांग्रेस के, वो जाएंगे जरूर बंगाल में, लेकिन तब तक थर्ड फेज हो चुके होंगे.
Okay, but frankly speaking, that's quite an amusing way of looking at it, although all of us know that political parties and their leaders do have, amusing strategies out there. This time around, as Sandeep was pointing out, Congress trying to make it out that they do not have a friendly fight going on in the state of Kerala just because they have an alliance with the left front in West Bengal as well. Let me bring in, quickly you, Mr. Prasad, here on these two aspects. One, obviously, West Bengal, the left front and the Congress, Mr. Fukan have clearly pointed out, but on the larger battle there, the TMC against the BJP, 31 seats, third phase, quite a crucial phase there.
Well, of course, just let me add to what Sandeep has said. I think politics is the art of possibilities, and that probably we are seeing both the art of possibilities and contradictions at play in Bengal and Kerala between the Congress and the left front. So that's how politics is all about. So while we move forward to what you asked, I think it's very important. The third phase as you enter for the elections, West Bengal, the BJP is putting its best foot forward. We've seen that they fielded the best leaders led by the Prime Minister himself, the Home Minister, the party chief, and so on and so forth. Almost every central minister you can name it has been to West Bengal or will be, and part of the campaign continues. The BJP sees itself as the best bet to kind of wrest power from the TMC, and probably one more citadel that holds the opposition party holds the power. So, but this is phase. We've seen phase 1, phase 2, different reports coming out, kind of indication, but it's a long-drawn battle. 5 more phases after to go. As they taper off, we need to see the kind of campaign will focus, as you rightly pointed in the starting of your introduction. After tomorrow, the focus is going to be only Bengal and Bengal.
Indeed,
Everybody
definitely.
is going to.
Definitely, after tomorrow,
So, yeah.
all eyes will be on West Bengal itself. That's why I would like to put the concluding comment, question to you, Mr. Prasad, and that about the Union Territory of Puducherry, amongst its larger cousins down south. Seemingly, we need to understand the issues there and the kind of political battle which is there as well, because preceding the announcement of assembly elections, there's quite a lot of action, political action there.
Vishal, one thing is very clear. Normally, Puducherry votes the way Tamil Nadu votes. But as I said, the NR Congress has toyed the idea of going it. And I would also leave it here to say that we don't know post-poll what's going to happen. Because much would depend on the way the post-poll results come. NR Congress is expected to do better because the Congress has not fielded the Chief Minister himself, who was there for the last 4.5 years, Mr. Narayan Swamy. So that explains the Congress is not very confident. But the DMK has its own stakes. So I think I would rather hold my bet post-election. There could be a difference, the realignment if possible. But as of now, it looks NR Congress has the edge, as all reports indicate on the ground.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. KP Prasad and Sandeep Phukan there as well, for sharing your views and insights there on the electoral battle, which is all set to take place tomorrow in all these 4 states and the Union Territory of Puducherry. In fact, 475 seats will go to polls tomorrow. The entire assembly of Kerala, Tamil Nadu and the Union Territory of Puducherry, last and final phase in the state of Assam, and third phase in the electoral battle in West Bengal. We'll come back again tomorrow with all the details of how the voting took place during the day and how the entire electoral action on the ground was. Keep watching. Thank you.